Hey guys, welcome back to r/bestof Redditor updates. In today's RipeStories video, I thought I was being paranoid when I kept finding strange hairs around my apartment, but then food started disappearing, my bathroom felt used, and one morning I caught my neighbor walking down from my floor with freshly washed hair. That is when I realized this was not paranoia, someone had a key to my home, and I had to act immediately. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, I kept getting written up for my hairstyle, so I cut all my hair off. Posted on r/malicious compliance. So when I was in the fire academy, the women's dress code said that hair had to be worn in a neat bun. I had layered shoulder-length hair, so it was difficult to keep it up neatly all day long. The shorter pieces would stick out of the bun or fall around my face, and my bangs were not long enough to pin back without using an entire bottle of hairspray. Most of my instructors were understanding and said that as long as my hair was up and my mask could seal to my face, they would consider me to be in dress code. But there was one instructor who said there was no excuse. He was like, "We're a paramilitary type school, so dress code is extremely important." And she acknowledged that it was not a safety issue, but told me I had to follow it anyway and that doing my best was not good enough here. She wrote me up 3 times and then called me in for a meeting to inform me that another write-up for the same issue would get me expelled from the program. I looked into the dress code and saw that the men's hair code was much more lenient. It just said that hair must not touch the collar of the shirt or the tops of the ears. So the night after that meeting, I went to a hair place and told the stylist to do whatever she wanted to my hair as long as it fit those requirements. She was stoked and gave me a really cute pixie cut. The next day, the same instructor tried to write me up, but since I was technically in dress code, she couldn't. The next semester, there was a man with long hair who wore it in a bun instead of cutting it, and the following semester the dress code was rewritten to be gender neutral. And the next one is the title story, which is titled, I kept finding strange long hairs in my home, but I am bald. Posted on r/bestof. So for some background here, I'm a man in my 20s that lives alone on the very top floor of an apartment block. I've had short hair for the last 10 years of my life and recently shaved my hair off completely, so I'm basically bald. However, across my house I kept finding long hairs on the floor. Like long brunette hairs, at least 5 to 6 inches, sometimes even longer, and they would be everywhere. On the bathroom floor, in the shower, in my cupboard, in my kitchen, on old clothes, living room floors, sofas, etc. And I've been single since November and clean often enough that I'm certain it is not my ex-girlfriend's hairs. Plus the color doesn't match anyway, she had solid long black hair, these are more like a light brunette. Plus finding them in places like the shower, where running water is hitting all the sides 5+ times a week? Anyway, I waved it off as, well, I work with a lot of people and use the gym and bus sometimes, so naturally hairs are gonna stick to my clothes. Well, one day, this past April, I finished my early AM gym session and got the call that I didn't have to go to work that day, so naturally I just start to walk home all happy that I have the day to myself. I am on the 5th floor, the uppermost floor of the building, and the apartment is in such a way that there's only one apartment per floor. So I start to hustle up the stairs and don't use the elevator since I'm sweaty from the gym anyway, but just as I whip a right to go up the last set of stairs from the 4th to the 5th floor, I see my neighbor on the 3rd floor's daughter coming down the stairs. We lock eye contact, we've never spoken before, mostly because we've never had a reason to, but also out of respect I didn't want to make her uncomfortable since she's like 19 to 21ish and I'm slightly older. The most interaction we have had is that I've spoken to her mom and father before when bumping into each other on the stairs, so I gave a confused "hello?" At this point I'm thinking maybe she went to knock on my door to ask for something. A cup of sugar maybe? I don't know. I was expecting her to reply with something like, "Oh hi, do you have XYZ?" But nope, she gave a silent "hey" and brushed right past me. And only then, when the smell of my own shampoo hit me, did I notice her hair was wet, like fresh out of the shower a minute ago wet. Now, I'm not saying that she showered in my house or that I have a stalker that's been living in my house while I've been at work. She very easily could have just been there to ask for something, and most generic brand shampoos smell the same, but don't the pieces all fit a bit too well together? Her hair color matches the hairs I would find around my apartment, and like I said before, they were everywhere, like in my bed, in my sock drawers, and if it is a case of me having a stalker, how did she know that I came home early enough to bolt out the shower in time? Our apartment does not have cameras, it is an older building from before 2000, and why would she be stalking me? For how long has she been doing this? We have never dated, never had a proper conversation, and I maybe saw her 20 times in the past 2 years, given that I work and she, presumably, studies or works too. As all these thoughts are buzzing through my head and I'm standing outside my door for a solid 2 minutes grappling with what just happened, I go to turn the key to my door and it opens without me having to unlock it. And I know for a fact I always double lock my door. It is the type with a lock near waist level and a second more secure lock with a different key around shoulder level, so I drop my bag, throw off my shoes and run to the shower, and yep, it is wet. And yeah guys, just to quickly interject here, if this happened to you, how would you handle this? I mean, it's pretty obvious that someone apparently breaks into OP's apartment or maybe has a second key or something. So what would be your first course of action here? This is just insanely creepy. And by the way, it reminds me of a Reddit story. I'm not sure if we have read that one before, but there's a Reddit story where someone finds out that there was a person essentially living in their attic without them knowing for like over a year. That is genuine nightmare material if you ask me. So anyway, I had not showered since yesterday morning. I'm a confrontational person, not that I go looking for fights, but I'll definitely pursue an answer if something is bugging me. So back down the stairs to the 3rd floor I went, knocked on the door of my apparent stalker and her family, and she opens the door but with the chain still on. I see half of her face from behind the door. Yes, can I help? Were you at my door or inside? I don't want to make this a police thing now, but you came down the stairs and I know you were inside. I just had to get something, it won't happen again, okay? Bye, see you. Doors closed. This happened last month, and I've been cleaning my house every weekend closely now, and got the locks changed and put a motion sensor cam above my door. It only films and triggers on the steps coming up to my door, so the 4th apartments still have their privacy. So far so good, I don't think she has been inside since, but looking back, I think she had been living in or going in or whatever into my apartment since January, because that is my earliest memory of finding hairs. She never took anything of value, like my laptop or the few watches I have. Seemingly, she just showered and ate some of my food and then laid in my bed. I do now always take the elevator and avoid the 3rd floor like the plague. Edit, I'm not really worried about my safety because A, I'm 200 pounds and do a lot of fighting training, and number 2, the new camera has never gone off once since installed other than myself triggering it when I'm home, and finally 3, I told the old retired husband and wife on the 4th floor that I suspected a robber was trying to break into my apartment last month. I didn't want to start spreading rumors and gossip and asked them to keep an ear out when I'm at work. So yeah, I feel fine and safe, just creeped out like my personal space had been violated. Edit number 2, someone DM'd me to check my coats and bags for air tags as to how maybe she knew I was coming home early that day. I don't have a lot of stuff, so I think I would have 100% found it by now given how often I clean, but I'll definitely do another sweep of my stuff. And now comment number 1 from Reddit, is it possible she had a set of keys from the prior owner of your apartment? Because sometimes neighbors leave keys with each other when they go away to water plants, feed animals, take mail and etc. Or if you did change them when you moved in, did you ever lose your keys? Is there a window she could have gotten in through? However she managed it, she was probably using your place as her own personal getaway space away from her family. I cannot believe she would have the guts to do that, and it's still super creepy to know that someone invaded your privacy and was in your home on multiple occasions. OP then answered, I moved in before her family, if I'm not mistaken, like a year beforehand, so I doubt they would have any leftover spare keys from the previous tenants, who I never even met. It never occurred to me to change the locks when moving in, mostly because I live in a small town that has like 1 mugging a year, low crime, you know. Window is impossible as I'm on the 5th floor and all my windows look out to the building, so unless she's Spider-Man, it is not happening. I'm 99% sure now, by the way, following other comments, that she went to a locksmith and maybe lied about ID or something to get some illegal keys. Bad enough that she invaded my privacy, but she helped herself to everything in the house too, like even my bed seemingly. Comment number 2, how in the hell is she getting in? You need to inform her parents and the landlord and explain that you'll call the police if you even suspect she's back in there, locks changed, hidden cameras inside and obviously one on outside of your door. What the hell? OP's answer: I have genuinely no idea, but off the top of my head maybe, she called a locksmith and did the good old "I'm the girlfriend/owner and got locked out" deal. But even then, that does not explain how she would get a key. Unless the locksmith offered that service and I'm not aware of it. I would go to the police, but I have no evidence. Even the police picked up her hairs across the apartment. They could easily just think we had a fling or something, and now I'm trying to get a restraining order or something. I don't want to get things messed up. Also, there's no landlord because I own the apartment. I think pretty much everyone here owns theirs in our building, and I would love to inform her parents, but how do you even start that conversation? And well guys, I could think of quite a few ways, but anyway. OP further said, the dad is a bus driver who works crazy hours and the mom is a teacher, I think, both in their 50s, and I don't know honestly how to go about this. And now we have an update to the story, and it goes like this. So my cousin's husband is a police officer, and I went to him directly about filing a report. He came over to my apartment first as I gave him a visual breakdown of what happened on the stairs and changes, odd things I'd noticed in my apartment since January. Primarily just the hairs everywhere and the missing food and how my door was unlocked that day. Though I did a thorough cleanup following the event on the stairs, my police friend was able to still find some hairs, and so he backed those up. I gave him my statement in detail and some dates best I could remember, when I remember finding the first hair, when I first noticed food going missing and so on. Also, he advised me not to talk to the family, not even with a friend, to avoid any confusion or get lawyers involved or muddy the waters with accusations. Well, with all that done, he left and came back 2 to 3 days later. He and his partner went to talk to the family on Sunday because they knew both parents and would likely be home then. Long story short, she confessed to everything immediately and broke down into tears and apologized once my police friend brought up how 5 months of entering someone's house, even with keys, is still very much an offense, and she could easily end up with a sentence of some should I pursue it. And that sentence could very easily involve the inside of a jail cell, irregardless of if she stole something or not. I don't know how true this is, by the way. It might have just been my friend and his partner pressing and exaggerating for a confession, but it worked. They talked for an hour with the parents and her all in the same room to get the answers from her, and then the same day he came up to me with his partner and they gave me the breakdown. Now, some answers to commonly asked questions. Some people asked, how did she get in or have her own keys? Well, the locks on our doors are the type that use a code on the lock barrel that only the manufacturer or partner/approved locksmith have access to. She knew this because her parents got the locks changed when they first moved in, and in fact she used the same locksmith from all the way back then. The locksmith presumably remembered the family and apartment, but just did not pay attention to it being the 5th floor this time, instead of her own 3rd floor. So he came over and took the barrel out, saw the code, went and made a set of keys, and done. I was none the wiser. Both my locks on my doors are different brands, but presumably they operate in the same way, so having 2 locks made no difference. Also, some people asked what she was doing in my apartment. Anyone who said she just needed space, you were right. So she has 2 younger step-siblings, and her mom is a tutor, not a teacher as I presume previously. She tutors at home, so at any given point there's always some kids around the house. She would say to her parents that she was going out to study or work or a girlfriend's house, and use my house as a hotel while she studied or relaxed. The reason she used mine was partly because she knew it would be empty, but also because my schedule was predictable for her. As I work an average 9 to 5 like everyone else, but leave the house at 6 to 6:30 to get gym done, that essentially gave her the house from 6 to 5. For how long? Some people were asking. My guess was actually right. It started in January, and once she had figured out I had broken up with my girlfriend at the time around November, my girlfriend would stay at mine when I went to work and back sometimes, so yeah, that would have been an interesting situation if they crossed paths. The using of my shower? Well, she claims she didn't do it always, just on hot days or days she couldn't at home. I cannot deny or confirm this. Like I said, previously being a gym goer, I would shower like 5 times a week or so. And by the way, guys, is it just me, or is showering 5 times a week not exactly a lot, especially for a frequent gym goer? Anyway, some people asked, how did her parents never notice? Well, the dad leaves early for work at 5 a.m.-ish since his bus route starts around 6, and the mom is up around 6 to 7, but since she's preparing for her own students for the day, plus her own kids to send to school, she just was not too bothered what her eldest 20-year-old daughter was doing, really. She would just say, "I'm going to the college library," or "I'm going to my girlfriend's," and that was good enough. Did she have a thing for me, like a crush? Some people were asking. Well, my police friend didn't really say anything about this. Presumably, he never asked, since it's not as important as other details or it never came back, and it makes little difference. Some people asked, how's my standing with the family right now? Well, the mom and dad both apologized to me. The mom did so via text and the dad in person at my door, and he offered to pay for the camera I installed as his daughter was the direct cause of it, but it was a cheap one off Amazon, so I said no, it is fine. We had a 10 to 15 minute conversation, and he was very apologetic and explained his daughter had always been very quiet and well behaved, so something like this would have never crossed his mind in a million years. He added that his daughter's never had a boyfriend, at least that he knows of, and only has a few friends, so her social interaction skills are not necessarily top-notch, and that even when guests would come, she would hide away in the spare room. So to the few people who predicted that maybe the pandemic and lockdown led to her not having good social interaction skills, you were half right. He again offered me money for my troubles like the missing food, new locks, cleaning, etc., but I felt bad enough already, so I declined. He also asked if I would press charges, and I again said no. More on that below, though. He said he would send his daughter to apologize to me in person too when the situation has calmed down, as she is apparently very tense and upset and has not left her room in days. And yeah, Ripe stars, now my thoughts about the story. To be honest, this crazy neighbor really reeks of a really high level of entitlement. Like, I don't even think she realized how creepy this was because it benefited her and she was maybe even enjoying it and she felt entitled to keep doing it. But obviously what she did was completely creepy. She was being like a stalker or something. But I think in her mind, actually, she felt that she deserved to have this space because she did not have any at home, eat OP's food, and she likely got a thrill out of this, meaning using someone else's stuff simply because she could. And the stalking was just a necessary means to continue getting what she somehow felt entitled to, so that was okay for her too. Either way, absolutely crazy. And now an interesting comment from Reddit. This guy said, "I'm not surprised by this. In an old apartment of mine, a private two-family house, my landlord's son would often break into my apartment when my roommate and I were at work, and from my understanding, he would lounge around for several hours, watching our cable TV, eat some of our food, and use our amenities like washer, dryer, bathroom, and so on. In the end, he was caught by my roommate's boyfriend and brother one day. He didn't know that they were in the apartment, and a fight broke out. Police were called, and the landlord tried to illegally evict me and the roommate a few weeks later." And yeah, guys, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Can you not report scum landlords like this? That sounds absolutely crazy. If you have any insane landlord stories, please feel free to post them in the comments. And another user in the comments said, "I still believe that charges should be pressed here because I myself, as a 20-year-old girl, cannot fathom to be so calculating and downright entitled to help myself to someone else's belongings, much less their house. I think the charges would make a record of her unhinged behavior and hold her accountable in the future if she were to repeat it. People like her need to be severely remanded to not repeat such a mistake. I think OP has far too much empathy here as to not file charges. Personally, I feel like this would make her fly under the radar. I mean, what if she were to do this to someone else who is unsuspecting? And clearly, by her stealthiness, one can assume if she ends up liking someone and feels entitled to them as well, this situation would only be her practice. And yeah, I know, this sounds a bit exaggerated, but I think OP's reaction would have been different had it been a dude. Damn, the thought of it just terrifies me." And the next one is a malicious compliance story that is titled, "You are mad that I shaved my head? Alright, I'll make sure to never shave again." So earlier last year, my family decided to throw me a surprise Sweet 16 birthday party, which all of our extended family members were invited to. Among those invited was my aunt, who we will call Carol, who is known in our family to be super conservative, unlike her husband, who tends to be more open-minded than her, though to be quite frank, the bar was on the floor. Since it was my Sweet 16, I decided to try out something new in regards to my appearance that I've always wanted to do, but never quite got the chance to. that being shaving my head. Little note, my aunt has always admired and complimented my long hair, mostly due to the fact that it heavily resembled the way she wore her hair when she first met my uncle in the 70s, so you can only imagine the expression on her face when she saw me walk into the room with a buzz cut. And so, over the course of the party, while I got many weird looks from my more conservative family members, none were as fierce as my aunt's. She would continuously make passive-aggressive remarks in regards to my new hair, or rather, lack thereof. I really tried my best to laugh them off, but with the things she was saying slowly getting a lot lighter on the passive part and a lot heavier on the aggressive bit, it kept getting harder to do so. And when my birthday party eventually came to a close, as we were all saying our goodbyes, instead of bidding farewell like everyone else, Carol, now with her composure nowhere near in sight, starts berating both me and my parents for letting me shave my oh so precious hair, saying how a woman like me should never even as much as hold a razor anywhere near her hair. Well, cue the malicious compliance. To be honest, it took me all my willpower not to lash back out at her, but I somehow managed to hold myself back. And in the middle of her yelling, it's like a light bulb lit up in my head, and so taking her advice, I swore to not shave any of my body hair until at least the next time I saw her, which was not long since Thanksgiving was not too far away. So with that, the next 3 to 4 months we are not only a delight not having to worry about shaving, but it was also strangely cathartic. I did everything in my power to make my leg and arm hair grow faster. You could name any method for hair growth and I can guarantee you I have tried it. Well, when Thanksgiving finally rolled around the corner, I made sure to pick out some clothes that revealed most of my arms and legs to piss her off even more. So then as I came up to meet Carol, the expression that washed up on her face can only be described as an unholy mix of both disgusted and horrified. Before I could even get in within 2 feet of her, she quickly rushed to the bathroom with her hands over her mouth. After what seemed like an eternity of painfully fake retching sounds, she finally exited the bathroom and started loudly screaming at me about how I look like a man and how me letting myself go had literally made her sick to her stomach, also making sure to compare me to big hairy animals while she was at it. Slowly, a crowd formed around us. Embarrassed by his wife, my uncle forcefully dragged Carol away by her hand and out the door, as everyone in the room froze up a bit. Since then, my uncle has profusely apologized to me, and my aunt has insisted on not appearing at any family gatherings anymore if I were there. And yeah guys, thanks for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.